Welcome
to the Bring Me to Life podcast.
It's time to wake up
and shine on. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Bring Me to Life podcast. Shannon and Shine here.
And a Selomon. Yes, it is me.
So, last week we talked about some relationships and trauma and coming together and how we navigated that as a couple. We had some good comedy moments in that episode.
It was a great episode. I appreciated it.
Yeah, we got some good feedback. Some of you said that you liked hearing about how we came together. Those of you that haven't been with us for the last 6 years, going on 7. What? Things are crazy. And some of the feedback we got was that there are a lot of listeners that are also going through some big transitions in their relationships, not only romantic relationships, but their friendships, their family relationships, and just, connecting with people as a whole.
Yeah.
And something they wanted to know was how is the best way to protect your vibe? I thought that was a good discussion to kind of dive into today.
Absolutely. And it's so important because a lot of us, if not most of us, are empathic, I believe. And it's a mad world out there sometimes. And so this is a great thing to learn. I'm excited to tell what I know and to hear what you know.
Definitely. I think one of the biggest things to remember is that it is important to protect your energy because, not everyone is on your level. Not necessarily, I don't even know if on your level is the right term, but in your vibration. Because I don't want it to sound like you're on some pedestal and they're not, but everybody's going through different things at different times.
Everybody's in a different space. Everybody has a different vibration and different energy. And not that anyone is good or bad. It's just sometimes we want to experience a certain kind of vibrations. And in order for us to live our healthiest, happiest, most fulfilling lives, we need to make sure we're conscious of where we're at and what kind of energy we're allowing into our field.
Totally. So that being said, what does it feel like for you, CeeLo, when somebody's not in your vibe?
That feels like, if somebody's not in my vibe, it feels off. Sometimes, I wonder if it's me, but there's been many times where I've just felt like, an energy or someone was just, something was off about them. That's the first thing. And something's a little off. Is it me? Is it just in my mind? Probably not, to be honest. And I think that all the time. And I got to learn that's probably my intuition, my spirit guides being like, be careful of this kind of energy. And because that's really important. So it just feels like it's off. It feels like something's wrong, like something's not right. I can feel my energy kind of spike a little bit where it unintentionally will my energy will expand around me and I could just feel it kind of flaring up if there's this little flare, almost like you have flares of anxiety or flares of anger or something like this. This is like a flare of protection where it just flares out of me. And depending on the type of person and what's going on, I felt that spike expand out of around my body and around my aura and expand out into the room to the point where, whoever's energy I felt was off, they literally had to get out as fast as they could. And I think that maybe it's something I just had encoded within me, as I incarnated on Earth. But, we all have different perspectives on this, so I'm really curious about you. So what do you feel like when something's off, when this kind of energy is not for you?
Totally. Just kind of reflecting on what you said too, you definitely have a way of picking up the auras. For me, I think as much as I read auras, I will often feel that someone's not in my vibe kind of in my body as well as in my spirit. I get a lot of these feelings in my gut, which is why I think that term, the gut instinct, kind of came into play. But what I've had to kind of program myself is to really go through a situation and not make assumptions either, because sometimes you may feel like a person's not in your vibe and you think, like you said, you thought it was you, but maybe it's something else happening in their life and it just affects their relationship with you because they're not able to emotionally show up, so to say. And I think that that's okay. You can give people space for that. But for me, again, I feel it in my body and it just feels like a disconnect. And it happens with me a lot of times with certain friendships because I like to give a lot in my friendships. And sometimes I make friends with people who don't always have the time to give it back as much. And I had to learn what unconditional love was to, you know, give them as much love as I feel safe giving and not expecting them to return it. And that was something I had to kind of analyze in myself because I'd feel like, oh, they're just not in my vibe, or, oh, they don't know how to be a friend or something like that. And it was something I had to grow through in being like, and I'm thinking, reflecting back too, as like a teenage girl and stuff, there was just so many emotions and things that would flare into different kinds of relationships, both friendships, relationships, and even family connections. And something that I've also learned is it's okay to give space in a lot of situations. Now, for you and I found that that's been different because at the beginning of our relationship, if you and I would have tension and we weren't in each other's vibe, if one of us would blow up, you were used to being like, okay, I'm going to give this space. And you would just kind of like walk away, take a step away from it. And I would just be like, so in my energy, like, no, how could you dare walk away from this right now? Like, we need to talk about it. Well, that's one situation because, you know, we live together. We're connected all the time. We have to see each other. We have to work together, all of those things. Now, in certain friendships or relationships where you're not seeing that person all the time, you haven't made that commitment to be there all the time, it's really good to kind of give space with that. I know there's been certain friends that I was really close with and I would hang out with them basically every day. And then something would happen in their personal life that would make them unstable in a way that they would retaliate towards me. Like I was the problem in their life, but they would tell me like, it's not you, it's me. And you know, we hear that statement a lot in different relationships. And sometimes they need you to be there and to be strong. And sometimes they need you to take a step back so that they can reprogram who they are. And you can protect your vibe by not trying to force any sort of expectation on them. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think sometimes we're in a different place, in a different time, and because somebody's not vibrating on your frequency, you know, it doesn't mean that they're bad people. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be friends with them anymore. It just means that at that moment, you know, just send them compassion. You can send them love and compassion without having to get involved. You can just think it like they're going through a hard time right now. Like, I hope they, you know, do good. And that's all it has to be sometimes. Like, you don't got to put a lot of energy into it. You don't got to make it so dramatic. You don't have to make it such a big thing in life. Just be like, okay, they're not in a good place. I wish them well, and I'm going to do my own thing until our frequencies are harmonious. Because in music, like, a chord is different notes played that create a harmony. And that sounds really nice. It feels good to us. But when something's not in harmony, then it feels off to us. And that's what we got to learn.
Yeah, something else. I think this is a really good discussion to have right now because we're in the middle of a political season and things like that, where a lot of different friendships and relationships are even being kind of tested and seeing how much you love somebody unconditionally on their viewpoints and what they're spouting off about. Like, man, social media is hard right now because everybody's spouting off about something. And, you know, some things we need to bring to the forefront for people, and other things it's like, what's that phrase, beating a dead horse or something? Like, it's just no point in keep saying the same things and just distancing yourself from people who love you and want to help you, but you're just spouting off uncontrollable, not even factual information.
I don't know what it is. Some people really have this thing in their head where it has to be this way, and I'm so, you know, open to everybody having their own way. And recently I posted a meditation on my Facebook where I just played some music. I did a little Archangel Michael meditation, and somebody freaked out about it and was like, you don't know what you're doing, like blah blah blah, this is not spiritual, blah blah, this is like all blah, 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 religious dogma and stuff like that. And I commented back and I was like, dude, I appreciate that you have your own opinion, but don't put this into a box where it has to be this way. He was talking in absolutes, like, this is how it has to be. Any other way is wrong. Like, that is not what I'm about. So
we can't assume what other people are experiencing in their reality. Everyone's reality is so different. It's like that there's that phrase where there's a different version of you in everybody's personality or everybody's reality, I mean. And there is, like, and people also, they tend to show up in the characters that you make for them. So if you start to have some weird interactions with a friend or a partner or a family member, and you start to get really frustrated at them and you continue that script for them, like, it's just gonna make it worse. You have to kind of give space sometimes for people to change, and that's something I didn't realize even when you and I were kind of bickering 6-7 years ago, where if I would have just given you 10 minutes to walk away, you would have had the ability to rechange, or I would have had the ability to breathe through, and we would come back in a different format. But you have to allow there to be space for people to change and shift their realities, and not just build them into these characters and let them play out these frustrating experiences over and over.
Yeah, we don't want to get locked into these dramas. Like, let people do their thing until they're in harmony with you.
Yeah, like, for an example, like, let's say you're somebody whose mom really frustrates you, and you get so frustrated every time you have to talk to your mom or something like that, and you just assume every time you talk to her it's going to be this battle. You have to reprogram that and try to make it experiences from both sides that can be different. Like, if you're afraid every time you interact with them it's going to be a battle, then start making interactions with them. It could be your mom, it could be your friend, it could be a partner, that are fun, and make sure that you are making a conscious effort to hold space for that change. Because, you know, in that example, the phone goes both ways. So if you're waiting every time for that person to get a hold of you and they're just always negative, then you want to open the door for there to be positive discussions. I've had several people in my family and friend circles where I've had to do that. It was like I was only hearing from them when they needed something, but I realized I wasn't making the conscious effort to reach out either. So, you know, a quick, hey, I hope you're doing okay, or I hope you're having a great day, goes a long way in shifting the way you connect with a person. That's another good one for, like, coworkers and stuff like that too. Like, if you only see your people you work with when there's something going wrong, like, try to make it so that they get excited to work with you or excited to see you and things like that.
Yeah, that's a big thing, because our minds get trained into anticipating how things are going to feel, how it's going to go, whether we're going to be happy or not. And I say this often, I believe that we create more suffering through what we think is going to happen or what has already happened than just experiencing that in the moment.
Man, you catch me in that all the time. I'll be like, oh, I don't want to have to do this thing tomorrow. I don't want to have to do this thing. And you'll be like, it's not even tomorrow yet. Like, can you please enjoy today? Like, can you be present in the now and not worry about tomorrow?
Yeah.
I feel like you call me out on that at least like once every other week.
I mean, I deal with it too, but I try to remind myself, like, you know, I'll let the other CeeLo that has to deal with that, you know, work through that, because otherwise we're just creating more suffering than we need to go through.
Yeah, giving yourself anxiety about something way before it happens, or like coming up with these ideas that, oh, I have to tell so-and-so that I can't go to, I don't know, their wedding or something, and they're going to be so upset. And it's like, they might be upset, but why stress yourself out for 3 weeks about it? Why not, like, either get it over with or just breathe through it and be like, this is a decision I have to make and I'm going to move forward with it. And you know, we're going to heal from whatever reaction that they have. And also, like, if you're dealing with situations like that where you have to give somebody maybe news they don't want to hear, allow them to have maybe an initial reaction and then check back in and see if they're still in that same space. Because sometimes people will have like an initial reaction and then they'll think something through and they won't be as frustrated about it. I think I dated a guy once who was in the military, and he said that they would wake him up in the first 5 minutes. They weren't responsible for their attitude because they had to wake up so early that a lot of them would just like start cussing and being crazy and stuff. But after that, they were responsible for every action they took or something. And that was a long time ago. Who knows? Maybe it was just like a district he was in. But I always thought that was interesting. It's like, okay, the first like initial reaction, somebody sometimes has to process through.
Well, we're emotional beings, and a lot of us, act on our emotions without processing them, and it's part of how we've been trained in this life, I believe. But it is okay to take a breath. It's okay to feel it, and then process it, and then respond to it. And that's mainly why when you ask me these questions, sometimes it takes me time to go through, because I literally process it. I experience it while I'm thinking about it and process it before I'm able to talk about it sometimes. And my dad had a really serious anger problem, and his dad had an even worse anger problem. So I'm working through healing those traumas in our lineage. And I'm a very peaceful person at large, but that anger, that family anger, has come through me many times. And sometimes you just got to experience it. Like I said, just experience it and then process it, and try not to be so quick to act.
Yeah, and that makes me want to touch on a few things. So one, we all deal with generational trauma, and we channel things that we grew up with that maybe we don't want to be a part of us, but sometimes it reflects in us. And also, energy can linger, especially in relationships and in control dramas. So like when we first got together, sometimes I would do something little that was a trigger in a previous relationship that maybe shouldn't have been a trigger for you, but you would react in a way. And I've caught myself doing this too, where I'll like blow up all of a sudden, and then like 2-3 minutes in, I'll be like, this is just like, I feel like I'm acting a script. It's like not me. And you would be like, I'm blowing up right now and it's not even my energy. And I'd be like, no, you're doing exactly what happened in a previous relationship. And that's where I get to this point where I'm like, sometimes we create these characters for people. So I had in my mind that this was a trigger for partners, and it created it as a trigger in you that wouldn't have been a natural response for you. And I can't even think of an exact example in this moment, but I feel like that happens for a lot of people, where they'll be like, I wasn't acting like myself. And it's either something generational, ancestral, or a control drama that maybe the other person reflected off of you as a mirror. Projected
that
Projected. Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
And it kind of brings us back to the main talking point of the podcast is, I felt this energy that you had from previous exes, and it kind of flowed through me. And, so that's why it's part of why it's really important to learn the difference between your energy, what's in harmony with you, and then what is not. What kind of energy is maybe looking for a channel to express itself through that you may not be into. Because I wasn't into getting angry and stomping around and being really mean and aggressive. So I'm glad that we were able to kind of be aware of that, starting to become aware of that, allowing us to honor those traumas, because they have lessons and they just want to be heard. So honoring them, and then being able to move on from them and understand we don't have to take on those energies anymore, because we're new people. You're not with those people anymore. Now you're with me, and I have a completely different outlook. I have a completely different energy, a different way of expressing myself and my frustration.
Completely different blueprint. Yeah, I think that brings me to this topic of what we mentioned before, is the body can literally reject someone's energy too if it's not in alignment with yours. And your anxiety, it'll start acting up anytime like a bad energy starts to disturb your spirit. So it's important to listen to that. In just a moment, I want to kind of dive into ways we can actually protect our energy. But this last topic I wanted to mention before that is sometimes your energy can literally be manipulated by other people, because they're, again, creating a script for you and you're feeling into that. So in some, for the example, some ways I may have been manipulating your energy because I was so afraid of the reaction I had received in previous relationships. Now, in some friendship dynamics, let's say you meet some new friends and one of them is used to being in charge all the time. They're used to being the leader, and all of a sudden they're a part of this new friend group and their energy feels threatened. They may then do certain things in the relationships or the friendships to start manipulating the energy or to get the attention more on them. So if you ever feel like you're being manipulated in a relationship, a friendship, or even in family matters, it's really important to listen to your body and to detach yourself from those situations. And that's going back to what I said earlier, is give yourself space, both for you to heal and for them to either go through whatever they're going through, or allow spirit to show you who needs to be in your life. A good way to do that is just saying, I release what no longer serves me, and I call in relationships that will help me be the best version of me.
That's what we need. We need to find other people who want to see us be our best versions as much as we want to see them be their best versions.
Totally. Like, why wouldn't you want to surround yourself with people who want you to be the best version of you? I've literally had people in my friend groups before who would be upset when I would do something positive because they made it feel like I was outshining them. I've had people tell me that it's hard to be my friend because it's hard to keep up with the things I do and I make them feel bad. So they just stopped being my friend. That's crazy. Like, I would much rather surround myself with people who want to see me succeed, want to succeed themselves, and can be on my level and cheer each other on.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, is to find your people. And in personal, like more romantic relationships, you want to find your soul partner too. You don't want to just be in a relationship with somebody who is showing up on just an intimate level. At least I don't. I'm speaking from my own perspective here. You do what you need to do. But from my perspective, in like romantic relationships, I've been dealing with some clients lately, and they're all kind of frustrated right now because during COVID, a lot of their partners have not stepped up, and they've been doing a lot of the different things themselves. And they're like, man, I just wish I had an actual like partner, not just like an intimate buddy, like somebody who could meet me on my level and cheer me on and be excited about life with me.
Yeah. They call it life partner because, you know, we do things together, and definitely, I agree. Find partners who will help you in life and help you to grow, and who you can help to grow.
Yeah, and if you're somebody that's listening, you feel like you're struggling, know that you deserve somebody that makes you feel like you're shining, that makes you feel like they can meet you on your level. And there's been so many times I was in relationships where I thought that I had to help somebody, or I was enabling them because, you know, they didn't have anybody, or this, that, or the other. Or I thought I couldn't get out of the relationship. And until you came along, I never realized what it meant to have like a partner that wanted to do things together and that was willing to figure things out. And I don't feel like I have to do everything by myself anymore.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to, in my perspective, you don't have to find somebody who's going to be there all the time, who will do every single thing with you, a podcast, working. Like, just find somebody who will help you, like, at least a few times a week, like work on stuff that, I don't know, maybe if you can find something that you could work on together. But then I found that, you know, I did need some space because we were together so much that I think it's important to find that balance, you know, find somebody who will help you, but also allow you to do your own thing and to have your personal time, because personal time, alone time, quiet time, is really, really important.
Right. Mainly what I was getting at is you want somebody who gets excited about life with you.
Get excited about life with you, and who maybe, I don't know, encourages you to follow your highest dreams.
Yep, that's what I'm going for. You mentioned quiet time and things like that, and getting back to the main discussion of protecting your vibe. Sacred space is a big thing. Having a space that you can get to and recharge. You want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, well, when we're around people so much, we begin to kind of forget who we are personally. And it's very likely that, you know, the 5 people you're around the most are who you start to become. And if you're around people who are manipulating you, and maybe you don't know who you really are, that happens quite often. And so having this alone time, this quiet time where you can go on your favorite trail by yourself, where you can sit in your car, where you can go anywhere that you can be alone, to journal, to even just think, to even just be curious about who you really are on the inside. what is your mission? What is your purpose? What are the things that you enjoy? So many people just go along with what everybody else is doing. And we grow up that way through school, through work, through social standards, through all these things. But taking this alone time will help you to really figure out what you enjoy, what you want to be doing with your life. No matter how old you are, it's never too late to start doing the things that you want to do, to start doing the things that you love and that you feel will make you a better person. So take some time to meditate, take some time to journal, or even if you literally just hang out with yourself and think about all the things of life, that's really important. And I think that will help you to charge up your batteries, to reconnect with yourself, with your own soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, having a sacred space is really important. My art studio has been a nice space for me. Sometimes I need to just like recharge and let loose, and I'll just go and I'll just paint, and it's not often like a detailed picture. It's usually more abstract. Like that release of your sacral chakra is usually pretty important for all different kinds of relationships. The solar and the sacral chakra are like those key energies other than your heart, which is pretty obvious. But the pain, I feel like, is deeper than that, deeper than the heart chakra. And giving yourself time to do sacred ceremonies is also really important. So if you are in a situation you want to send somebody healing, or you wish somebody in your life would have a different script or a different character in your life, giving yourself time to do a ceremony in their honor, or in the honor of you more so than even them, like calling in what you want, what you deserve, and releasing what no longer serves you, which I've done that. And I've actually accidentally released friendships that I had had for decades because they no longer served me and they were dramatic. And then years later, those people would come back into my life because something had shifted. I gave space for them to change, and our relationship dynamic could be different then. It wasn't how it was expected to be. And you can do these different cord cuttings, and a cord cutting doesn't always mean you're cutting somebody out of your life completely. It can. I know people who do cord cuttings for relationships and exes and people they just don't want in their life anymore. But sometimes you can do a cord cutting just so that person can't feed off your energy anymore, and you can still have them in your life. And that's why I say call in what's best for everybody. And that's not necessarily some big magical thing. Like some people are like, well, in some ways that could be like hexing someone. No, that's why you're calling in what's best for you, what's best for them. You're not wishing bad upon them. Just say, I release what no longer serves me. I call in what can help me be the best version of me, and make a pact with spirit, God, universe, whatever you want to believe in, that you're ready to show up and that you're ready for this relationship to be a way that is healthy. Because when you're dealing with a lot of energy being, I don't know, if you're dealing with a lot of energy lower in your vibe rather than protecting your vibe, then it's not healthy for anybody.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of kick it back to being alone real quick, if I may. I know that you've been in long distance relationship your entire life. You've had a hard time being alone. So what's some advice maybe you could give other people who have a hard time being alone? Like what could they do to get through that? To find the appreciation of something like that.
You mean long-term relationships?
No. So not even in terms of relationship, just in terms of not being around people, in terms of being by yourself with your own thoughts. Because I know you talked and you said you hate being alone. It was hard for you before I got here to be alone with your own thoughts. So what's something other people could do if they hate being alone?
Okay, so before we got together, I did struggle with being by myself a lot because I dealt with a lot of abandonment issues. So I had this thing where every time I was by myself, bad things would happen, and it was really traumatic for me. Things that I've learned to help with that is instead of watching TV, listening to music that gives me a good vibration helps me get out of those thoughts. Recently, when you go to work and stuff, if I start to feel anxious or worried about something, I'll put on music and I'll just dance and release that energy, because I realize it's a lot of pent up energy that's building up inside me and I need to get my mind off of those things. reading, writing, journaling has been super helpful. That's something I try to do in my alone time if I don't have a huge to-do list. And even when I do have a huge to-do list, sometimes I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to go journal first, because then the to-do list will be more tolerable. I'll have released whatever is inside of me that's making me frustrated. I think I answered your question. I could probably go on with it, but
what's the biggest lesson you've learned from being able to find appreciation of being alone?
Well, I've kind of come to terms with that when we are by ourselves, if we're single, or maybe you're just home alone for a lot of time, maybe your partner travels, whatever, is God gives us time, God, universe, spirit, whatever. I've been trying to use the term God more because I don't know, it seems to be what most people seem to use, but I like to think of it as the universe. And it gives us this time alone because it needs us to take in something. It needs us to download something. It needs us to experience something that is meant for you to do alone, whether that is, dealing with a transition in your life, or tackling a household chore that maybe you wouldn't do if your partner was around all the time. Like, if you're alone, there's a reason. There's something you're supposed to be learning. That's what I've at least been programming into myself.
Cool. Yeah. I do. I love being alone, to be honest. And so I was in my shell growing up most of my life. It wasn't until I went on my crazy adventure that I really came out of my shell. And even since then, I'm fine by myself. Like, I can be by myself all day, but when I get around people, I get a little anxious. And I've learned to be less socially awkward. I want to say, I'm not still socially awkward.
Yeah, I feel like I've switched. There was a long time in my life where I didn't like being by myself. And I think that came from growing up kind of ignored, kind of like my dad's thing was out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And it got pretty lonely. Like I was raising my younger siblings and stuff like that. But on an intellectual level, I didn't have a whole lot of people. And I also, through my teenage years, when I was left alone, I started channeling. And that was intense for me to be alone all the time. It was like, I didn't know how to turn off my spiritual connection at that point. So for me, being alone, it was like there was this constant radio of spiritual information downloading into me. And I didn't know how to take it in and use it properly. And now as I'd like to think more balanced being, when I have my alone time, I use that again for the journaling and the meditation and prayer and stuff, because it's like, okay, there's no one else here around me. There's nothing to distract me. This is my time to get my download. It's like a computer. If you're on the computer active all the time, it never gets to update. So if you're a person and you're constantly surrounded by people and busy things, then your body doesn't get a chance to update and reprogram. You have to distance yourself from almost everything and everyone to get that recharge and that full download, or you're going to be skipping or like on an old program that no longer serves you.
Yeah, I know. Talk about 32-bit software.
But something else that you mentioned is connecting with the angels. So you mentioned that you do Archangel Michael channel sometimes, and that was a big thing for me. Personally, if I'm dealing with a situation and I feel like my energy is being manipulated, or if I'm getting anxiety about going out in public, because now, like I said, I switched. So now when I have to go out in public, I get anxiety. I'd almost rather just be at home by myself or at my home with you or whatever, and working digitally and virtually, because I've started getting anxiety going out into public. I don't know if that's, I want to blame COVID, but it's not COVID, because there were times way before COVID where we would want to go out to like community events and I would start to get anxious, and it would be up until the moment we got there, and then we'd get there and I'd be totally fine. I'd be talking to everybody. I'd be bouncing around the room and I'd be excited and like one of the lives of the party. But getting up to that moment, I was just terrified.
It's so funny because we'll go on a trip to like this event, and I'll be kind of excited for it. I'll be like, and kind of looking forward to seeing people, and you're just dreading it. You like,
And I love the people.
And then we get there, and I just kind of like watch you talk to everybody and like have a great time, laughing, like all this stuff. And I'm like, geez.
It's an anxiety thing. It's like I fear all of these potential outcomes, and it goes back to, like you said earlier, like sometimes our anxiety will just stress us out so much more than the actual thing. It's like we come up with these ideas in our minds. And something that I've used to help me with that in relationships, friendships, community, whatever, is calling upon Archangel Michael and using his protection shield to just be like, you know what? I'm going to go to this thing, and it can be really awesome or it can be not. But regardless, I'm going to be protected. I'm going to visualize myself in my little light bubble. And typically I've noticed that what happens is when I do put my energy into that space and create that sacred kind of bubble for myself, the people that I don't want to interact to will either not show up, or we will avoid each other and not have any sort of conflict, but it goes smoother. Another example I have of that is when my grandma was in the hospital, there used to be this one doctor, and he would always come with bad news, and me and my aunt could not stand him because it was like, even if we got good reviews from everybody else, he would always say something negative. So her and I used to visualize there being a bubble of protection from Archangel Michael around the room, and we would literally watch the doctor walk towards us with his little clipboard and like act like he was coming in, and all of a sudden his beeper would go off or something would happen, and it was like right where I saw the shield ending, he would just stop and turn around and walk away, and it was like, oh, okay. Whatever he was going to say was not important in that moment. Important enough that Michael was like, okay, you got this. So like call upon your archangels, your guides, whatever you feel protected by to protect you.
Yeah, that's a big thing. You know, it is important. You can visualize yourself in a bubble. You can visualize yourself in armor. You can visualize yourself being really strong, maybe with some kind of like astral protection, maybe a shield or a sword, you know, whatever helps you experiment, explore, and learn.
Totally. I think that is important, is to just experiment with what works for you and the best way to protect your vibe.
Yeah, I mean, how else are we gonna learn about ourselves? That's part of why we're here, to experiment, explore, and see what we like and what we don't.
Yeah. I feel a nudge from Archangel Raphael being like, yo, if you're dealing with a relationship that you want to be healed too, like maybe you don't want to just protect yourself from it, but you also want to like heal that connection. The Archangel Raphael is like the energy of healing vibrations. So maybe if they need healing, or if the relationship itself needs healing, imagine Raphael coming in and healing that, so that you again can have an interaction of joy or understanding or coming togetherness. And if you need a color to visualize with that vibe, his color is typically like a green, emeraldy green tone.
Yeah. So there's so many guides and spirit guides and other kind of guides out there, and you just gotta learn about them and see what resonates and what doesn't.
Totally. Do you have any other tips for protecting their vibes today?
Just know that nobody on this earth can harm or affect your energy without you allowing it to happen. So continue to visualize yourself being protected. Feel yourself being protected. Most of my life, I've just had this knowing that I'm protected. And I've never had to go to the hospital for a broken bone. I'm not going to say any more after that, but, you know, I've just been super protected because I had this knowing. And I think even that is really powerful.
Yeah, just having faith that you can protect yourself and you can protect your energy, and having faith in the spirit that brought you here, your higher self, God, universe, whatever. It's really important. But before we end real quick, I do want to give a few shout outs if you don't have any other things on this topic specifically.
I do not. And if anybody has any questions about this topic, feel free to send them in, to comment. And I'm just really grateful for y'all. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, so before we end, I don't think we're going to do an energy forecast or anything this time, but I want to give you guys a shout out. There's so much other content on bringmetolife.com right now. We have new articles by our friend Mooney, who's been doing some amazing things. Go check out Mooney's articles. We have new episodes to tune in and find the others. That episode is on fire. You're going to go check it out. And then there's new episodes of Incense and Whiskey and Shamanic Living this week. So tons of content at bringmetolife.com. Please go give those people some love. They're helping support the network and helping us grow. And I want to also give a shout out to something else that would help us grow is go check out Bring Me to Life shop. CeeLo and I created a variety of really awesome sigils to help you meditate. So if you want to invest in something, a tool to help you meditate and visualize your best version of life and abundance, and there were a couple other things that you infused into them.
Definitely. They all come with the custom meditation. They come infused with some sacred Appalachian Mountain energy.
And those investments not only get you a really amazing handmade piece, but it also goes towards helping our network get a better computer so that we can bring you even more high vibe content.
We want to stream some video. We want to stream more music, and we're going to do it. So thanks everyone for helping.
Yep. Until next time, stay awake.
Stay awake.
Shine on always. For many of us, spirituality is just the quest to find essence or true meaning and to really just connect with a higher consciousness.
Connecting with your spirituality is very important in this life. By becoming mindful of all of it, you can realize where you are and if that is leading you to where you want to go.
Listen to the little simple things, because it's those little simple things that are going to shift you vibrationally in such a way that will prepare you to become very intuitively minded and ready to step forward on the next part of your path.
I hope you can feel the love that's inside you, it's inside me, that connects us.
Thanks for shining on with us.